Welcome to Solutions with Sagamore, a podcast produced by the Sagamore Institute that features solution-oriented conversations about key issues facing communities throughout Indiana, the United States, and the world. I'm your host, Tim Swearens. In this episode, Sagamore President Teresa Lubbers reviews the Institute's highlights in 2025 and looks ahead to plans for 2026. Teresa, 2025 has been a very busy year at Sagamore. How have the events, the activities this year aligned with Sagamore's three pillars: opportunity, national security, and citizenship?
Well, a year has actually had a lot of activities this year, as you might imagine, and we have limited time today, so I'll try to highlight the ones that I think actually were especially important this year, aligned, as you mentioned, with those pillars that we talk about. Opportunity, how do we increase opportunity for Hoosiers, people in the Midwest? How we actually look at national security and what's the role of the Midwest and Indiana in technology, especially in the defense area. And then third, really looking at citizenship and how we amplify opportunities for people to be involved in their communities. So let's step back for just a moment and look at opportunity from the lens of the workforce, because we know that we actually need to have a prepared workforce, and that really prompted us to write Workforce 2040, which was released last year, as you know. We continue to look at this issue and have convened people throughout the state and did a lot of work this year to make sure people know why we're talking about the needs of the workforce. But this year we actually launched a new initiative under Workforce 2040, which is the status of boys and men. One might ask why we're doing that, and it's because we need to make sure that we are fully engaged with everybody in our economy. And when we look at the numbers, especially in the areas of education, employment, and well-being, we've seen declining numbers for boys and men. This is true across the country and true in Indiana as well. So we're in the process of working on this. It will culminate in a report that will be provided to Richard Reeves, who's speaking at the Indiana Economic Club in March. So we're in the process of doing that. I would say also in the area, but then clearly the study of boys and men has shown this, but we've seen it in other areas as well. We continue to do our work in the area of mental health. Yes. We run the mental health roundtable for the state. We've had another summit this year on that. This year's program was really focused on the business of mental health and how employers actually need to be engaged in this work as well, and how they increasingly are doing that. So we actually were present again at the Indiana State Fair as we've tried to drive awareness to more Hoosiers throughout the state about the issues related to mental health. And that's been a very important initiative for us as well. We worked to actually look at the launch of Marvella, which is a project that is actually looking at providing opportunities for young girls to be involved in sports up in Northwest Indiana, and also mental health and physical health have been a part of that too.
Women's sports are a very big part of Indianapolis and Indiana these days.
It has, and increasingly so, and we're looking for opportunities. So, we talk about an abundance mentality for these issues, whether we're talking about the status of boys and men, or we're talking about opportunities for girls in sports. It's not demeaning one in order to elevate the other. It's really, we talk about this from an abundance kind of way. So those are some of the things we've done in that area. We also we stepped up our work in national defense. Indiana and the Midwest has had a reputation for many, many years as being at the center of providing opportunities for us to be engaged in defense work. And when you look at defense technology right now, we call it the reindustrialization of the Midwest, to actually look at our legacy and the legacy industries that we've had, but also looking at emerging technologies that actually will impact defense. So we've had two events this year, one in Dearborn, Michigan, that actually brought together policymakers and employers in those areas, and another area in Green Bay, Wisconsin, that actually looked at many of these issues as well. So really trying to make sure that we're taking advantage of the opportunities to help keep America safe through the Midwest.
Yeah, two Sagamore fellows, Alan Dowd and Jerry Hendricks, are true experts in this space.
Absolutely. I mean, they're thoughtful leaders. Jerry is working in Washington, D.C., especially on the area of shipbuilding and how we look at that. And Alan has been writing for many, many years. We can read his writing, everything about from Ukraine to the responsibilities that we have for national security. So been very helpful in that regard. And then the third area that I would highlight is what we call as civil society and citizenship. What's the obligation of citizens to be engaged in their communities and their state? And both this year and then leading into 2026, we're looking, for example, at the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And we're talking about the next 250 as well. Our conference on citizenship this year will focus on that. This past year, our conference on citizenship was really focused on our work on revitalizing small and mid-sized towns through our program, which is called Building Better Communities. So we actually are working with the Sagamore of the Wabash recipients to try to engage with them more by sector and geography around the state. A lot going on, as you can tell.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
One of the great things that's happened at Sagamore in the last few years is the profile in central Indiana and the state and beyond. Profile much higher these days. What has changed? What's changing to help more people know what Sagamore is doing and how important it is to Indiana?
When you talk to people about Sagamore, and if they know anything about it, they almost always have a positive view of the value of a think tank and what we could do for the state, for the Midwest, and for the nation. But we've really worked to amplify that message and with our partners, with other policymakers, with employers, with educators, to make sure that we're taking advantage of their expertise in partnership with us. So we've entered into this world of podcasts with you, so thank you. We didn't do that before. We certainly are taking advantage of social media in new ways as well. We're doing this very strategically and thoughtfully. We're not trying to give people more information than they need. We're trying to give them the information they do need and how we can actually take that message, and in a broader way. So everything from just traditional ways might be op-eds that we would write,
yes.
And to place those around the topics that we're talking about, increase of social media, podcasts, our newsletter that is increasingly going to a larger number of people as well. So we actually believe that our message is one that can make a difference in people, but they need to know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the benefits of podcasting is we can reach a younger demographic. They may not have a lot of familiarity with Sagamore Institute and what it does. So just explain the mission and vision behind Sagamore.
Sagamore is what we refer to as an action-oriented think tank. So when you think of think tanks, you're familiar with American Enterprise Institute, Brookings, organizations like that. We have similarities to that in that we do research and analysis. The production of Workforce 2040, the book, is a perfect example of that. But we're not content with just doing the research. We really believe that we want to work with others to take that research and the analysis that we do and take those ideas and put them into practice. Our philosophy here is we don't admire problems, we admire solutions. And that means that we need to work with those people who are actually on the ground doing that kind of work. And there are a significant number of examples of that, of partners and organizations that we work with.
Before we went on the air, we were talking about your experience in the Indiana Senate and then Commissioner of Higher Education. A lot of your experience has been in education and workforce development throughout your career. How is that, moving into the leadership of Sagamore? How have you drawn on that experience?
Well, it is so important to the state, and it has where I've spent most of my career has been involved in education and workforce and the economy and the relationship between all of those. And we know that we're at a pivotal time in terms of the jobs changing and the skill sets that people need to be prepared for those changing jobs. And so we do many things, all the way from thinking about the K-12 system. We run the scholarship granting organization. We're one of those organizations in the state. So we have almost 80 schools that actually benefit from people making donations to those scholarships to schools around the state. We actually also run the Global Teach program, which actually places teachers in schools in high-need areas from other countries. We have about 120 teachers that are operating throughout Indiana right now. We have a new program right now that we're partnering with an organization called High School Hustle, which actually is teaching birthing entrepreneurs and giving them the opportunity when they're in high school to actually start companies. We know that entrepreneurship and an entrepreneurial spirit are more important than ever in this country. We also know that learning to take risk earlier actually has a benefit as well. So High School Hustle is another program that we're working on here. So all of this kind of leads us to thinking about the future of the workforce. And when you think about what work is going to look like leading into the next decade or up into 2040, we know that there are going to be jobs that are eliminated, but we also know that there are going to be jobs that are created. And how do we make sure that we're not leaving people behind when we think about the future?
You mentioned the Indiana Conference on Citizenship, which is coming up, and it seems like a long time, but just a few weeks. It's in February. Tell us more about that conference.
Yeah. Our conference on citizenship, really, we've done this for many years. It's an annual conference. We focus on a topic, and we basically say we need to have people more engaged, have a better understanding of that topic. So several years ago, for example, we focused on mental health, and from that it birthed the state's mental health roundtable. A few years ago, we focused on can the Midwest help keep America safe, and we looked at those issues. Last year, the year before, we actually looked at media and information literacy and with all of these various sources of information, how do we make sure people understand how to get their information and can be critical users of that information. This last year, and we really talked about our program Building Better Communities, which is about the revitalization of small and mid-sized towns through three areas, really, which is infrastructure, the buildings, quality of life, and innovation. And that actually started the Goldsmith Prize on Local Government Innovation. Yes. So you can see just that where our topics are aligned to our pillars, but we try to provide citizens with really up-to-date information. So this year, we're excited. Our program is going to be in February, and it's really jump starts our work on the 250th anniversary. And we're bringing in Yuval Levin, who is a senior fellow at American Enterprise Institute, in my opinion, one of the greatest writers, most thoughtful writers about the formation of this country, the founding documents, and the impact that has today. So he will be having a facilitated conversation with Nate Feltman. We also will be having the former governor, Eric Holcomb, will be there talking about the importance of civic engagement for 14 to 18-year-olds, sort of launching a new program for those as well. So all of this will be in February, but as I said, it's not designed to be an end, but to actually a beginning of our activities throughout the year.
Right. July 4th, 2026.
Well, my goal is that it won't be just fireworks on July 4th.
Yes,
I mean, that's been I'm fine with fireworks on July 4th, but I think it should be more than that.
Right, absolutely. and especially a critical time in our country, right, is all the conversations that are going on for Sagamore to help lend some light to some of the issues in the news right now.
Well, and I think it can actually bring us together. I'm hopeful that when we think about the wisdom of the documents of the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. I'm informed by Richard Haas's book, which is, the obligations of citizenship, the Bill of Obligations. And really, we believe in our public officials, our policymakers, but at the core, it's really the obligation of citizens to be involved, whether that's involved in their communities, the engagement of employers with people. So we really want everyone to feel like they're a part of this year, and not, you only get one 250th, so let's take advantage of it. Right. And then, as I said, our goal is to talk about the next 250 as well.
Yes. A lot of thread through all the things that we've talked about, right? Solution oriented. When we talk about citizenship and this big messy country of 340 million people, and how do we find solutions together? And that citizenship, healthy citizenship, is essential for that.
Yeah, and I want to revisit one of our programs this year, which I talked about just generally, which is our Building Better Communities.
Yes.
Because it is at the community level often where you can bring people together and solve problems. And, when we look at the revitalization of small and mid-sized towns across the country, what does that really take? And so we have a trio of activities that we're really looking at. If you drive through a small or mid-sized town and there are dilapidated buildings, you tend to keep driving.
Yes.
But buildings alone won't do that. It's very important, and so we've been working to actually look at communities around the state, and then really looking at quality of life, because people need to know that it's safe, the schools are good, culture, all of those things that would cause someone either to stay in their communities or move to their communities. again, at that community level. And then I want to talk just a moment about this Goldsmith Prize that we launched this year, which I think is very exciting. As we all know, those of us who have been around for a while, when Steve was mayor of Indianapolis for 8 years, it was also a time when there were limited funds. And whenever you have limited funds, people tend to think about that as the problems, and it does create issues, but it also is an opportunity to do things differently. And so a group of people who had actually worked with Steve in the past when he was mayor really wanted to honor that innovative kind of approach that he had to local government. So we've spent the last year or so really coming up with this program, which is the Goldsmith Prize on Innovation in Local Government. We were delighted that we had 12 extraordinary applications from communities throughout the state. The city of Goshen was the first recipient of that. The city of Tipton and Michigan City were both had highly successful proposals as well. And so this will be an annual program. So we think that building this around these 3 areas gives the opportunity for communities to really thrive in the future, and that's why we're going to continue to work in that area.
Our last episode of this podcast was with Steve Goldsmith. If any of our listeners have not listened to that one yet, I'd highly recommend it. What other highlights in 2026 before we wrap up? What are you excited about as we move into a new year?
Well, we'll be continuing our work in mental health, of course, and so we will have our mental health summit this year. I'll give a little teaser on it. We're really looking at the topic of serving those who serve, first responders, because we know often the areas of mental health take a toll on people who are facing really tough issues, whether it's veterans, firemen, fire people, I guess firemen and firewomen.
Firefighters, yes.
Firefighters, yes. Police officers, they're often at the very center of issues related to mental health. So that will be our topic with that. Of course, I've already chatted a little bit about our conference on citizenship. We will be continuing to have another summit on national defense as well, focused on the needs that will be emerging and really in the area specifically of defense technology. The work that we're doing with building better communities will be built out even more in the coming year, just to name a few. And then we're really looking structurally at Sagamore and how we do our work through our institute, with our partners, the ventures that we engage with. We're not an easy organization to explain, but I think it's from that complexity that gives us opportunity to touch people's lives and organizations in really exciting ways, and we see that continuing in 2026.
Yeah, sounds like another very productive year at Sagamore Institute. Thank you, Teresa. Sagamore Institute is an Indianapolis-based think tank focused on economic and educational opportunity, national defense, and civic health. To learn more about the issues discussed today, please visit sagamoreinstitute.org. Thank you for listening.